This month marks 40 years since tens of thousands of people came to Hazzard for the 1981 Black Gold Festival. Several fan favorites from the TV show The Dukes of Hazzard made an appearance and rode in the parade. The visit brought national attention to Eastern Kentucky, and cast members said at the time they had never had a welcome like the one in Hazzard, Kentucky. Only two cast members that were here in 1981 are still with us, and one of them, Rick Hurst, who played Cletus, will join us tonight, along with Ben Jones, who played Cooter. A mini Dukes of Hazzard reunion tonight on a special Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition.
From WYMT Mountain News, this is Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition.
Eastern Kentucky, get ready to experience the best 3 days of live music. Alley on Main presents the first annual Alley Fest, coming September 30th through October 2nd. A music festival like Eastern Kentucky has never seen. Americana, country, bluegrass, and folk artists from all across the United States are set to take the stage in Paintsville. You don't want to miss this lineup. Tickets are on sale now at alleyonmainkentucky.com/alleyfest 2021.
There has probably never been a bigger crowd in downtown Hazzard before or since. An estimated 100,000 people from across the country came to see cast members of the Dukes of Hazzard television show during the 1981 Black Gold Festival. 30 years later, the cast still has fond memories of their trip to the real Hazzard. In September 1981, Daisy, Boss Hogg, Roscoe, and Cletus came to Hazzard, Kentucky at a time when the Dukes of Hazzard was one of the most popular shows on television. The cast seemed overwhelmed.
So you enjoy Hazzard hospitality?
This is fabulous. It's just unbelievable.
Best time we've ever had in a town, and wouldn't you know, come from Hazzard.
30 years later, we caught up with those cast members still living at last month's Hazzard homecoming in Virginia. They all remembered their famous trip to Hazzard, Kentucky.
We stole the name of your town for our show and just added a Z, you know. I'd like to wish everybody have a happy Black Gold days.
It just thrilled me because people came in there for 2 or 3 days and slept in their trucks and everything else. And we had such a wonderful turnout that they called out the National Guard on the parade to take us down the street.
In addition to the parade, cast members were there for the dedication of the new City Hall. They were made Kentucky colonels by then-Governor John Y. Brown and given keys to the city of Hazzard by former Mayor Bill Gorman.
Just what exactly does this key open? With you in Hazzard, nothing.
Catherine Bach, who played Daisy, remembers going to a party at Andy Adams's house in Woodland Park where she saw a home with an indoor pool for the first time.
We had dinner around his pool in the middle of this little town, and I was just amazed by it. I had the best time. I loved the people of Hazzard, Kentucky.
The man who played Enos, Sonny Schroyer, did not make it in 1981, but also spent some time with fans in Hazzard in the 1980s.
I stayed on that big old hill up there called the Citadel, and those people are great. We love y'all up in Hazzard, Kentucky.
Meeting Enos recently also allowed me to bridge the last 3 decades together.
Steve, you've changed a little bit, buddy.
As he signed a picture I took with him in Hazzard when I was a little boy. So 3 decades has turned into 4. That was a story I did 10 years ago with some of the Dukes cast members, and we are now happy to be joined by one of 2 surviving cast members who visited Hazzard in 1981. Rick Hurst is with us tonight from all the way out in California via Zoom. Rick played Deputy Cletus, and Rick, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I want to go to you first and talk about 40 years ago, and what stands out in your mind about that trip? I know it's been quite a while.
Well, the first thing that jumps to mind is the massive amount of people that were there that day. I was new to the show in the sense that I came on as a guest star on episode number 11, but I became a regular later on. But the number of people and the incredible heartwarming outpouring of appreciation was really remarkable. Have not experienced anything like that since, in truth. Added to which, we had the most amazing experience of Jimmy Best coming in contact with one of his long-lost brothers, I guess you would say, because they were split up at adoption. And this man turns up there with Jimmy and says, "Hi, I'm your brother." And that was just something from heaven. For all of us to stand out on that little portico and look out on the sea of people that were just, at that time, the show was fairly new, but to have that kind of outpouring is totally remarkable.
So during that time, did you have any idea of how popular the show was?
That was the first hint, I would say. And to answer your question in the short form, no. I think Ben describes it best when he says that we surprised the Los Angeles television critic, who said the show wouldn't last past the first commercial. Well, guess what? It has gone on. None of us, I think, could have anticipated that here we are, 40 years later, still celebrating the show with people of all generations coming to say hello to us. I mean, it's such a kick to have a 4-year-old come up and say, "Hi, Cletus," and start doing lines from the show. And his parents and their parents all watched it. So it's become a generational phenomenon, which none of us could have anticipated.
Now, Rick, 2 cast members with you here in Hazzard in 1981, Sorrel Book and James Best, are no longer with us. Sorrel's been gone quite a while. Jimmy passed a few years ago. What were they like to work with?
Oh, man. It was brilliant. Just simply heaven on earth. My very first scene that I shot on the show was an episode called Money to Burn. My very first scene was with Sorrel and Jimmy. And it was us passing a bag of money around each other. And suddenly it just took off. There was an immediate chemistry, almost like jazz musicians kind of playing a riff together. There was a flow, there was a natural combination, a natural fit and ease that happened that was wonderful. I had worked with Sorrel once before on a show called On the Rocks, which was a ABC series that lasted for a year about a minimum security prison. Sorrel played a judge who wound up in our cell after he had sent most of us to prison, which is very funny. So Sorrel and I had known each other, but I tell you, there was an immediate chemistry and appreciation and respect, for me at least, of these men and their history and their experience. Jimmy Best was a legend in terms of Westerns and the number of films he'd done. And he was a famous teacher. He was a famous acting teacher. Wonderful man. Wonderful in so many ways. An artist, a director, a writer, painter, and he was one of those guys could make you laugh just reading the phone book. You know what I mean?
He was great, and I'm fortunate I got to interview him a few years ago. We want to introduce Ben Jones. He is also with us tonight. He played Cooter on the show, and Ben, you were not here in 1981, but you may have visited Hazzard before any of the other cast members. I remember you telling me that you worked here on the railroad a long time ago.
That would have been 1962. I was on a work train in the summers. I was going to college, but in the summers I was from a railroad family. So I had a great job on the railroad, contracting to different railroads throughout the Southeast on what they call a weed killer. knocking down all the stuff that rose alongside the tracks. But anyhow, I was on the old L&N Railroad, the Louisville and Nashville, and rolled into Hazzard. And so let's see, I was about, Rick, I got there about 15 years before you did.
Oh, man. As you always do, you are always ahead of the pack. Sure.
Well, anyhow, but it's a wonderful town. I didn't get to go to Hazzard, but I remember y'all coming back from that weekend. I had a gig somewhere else, car show in Georgia or something. But I came back and y'all came back because, see, I commuted. I lived in Georgia and I flew out to LA to do the show. And as soon as my school was over, I'd be on a plane back to Georgia. So I knew how people in the heartland of America love the Dukes of Hazzard. And but you got an extra dose of it when y'all went to Hazzard. I look at the film and I can feel that excitement and the joy and the love. Man, people just loved each other there. And that, in our business, as you all know, and Rick, you know this as well as anybody, that's why we do this. And to get that heavy a dose of appreciation and affection and friendship, and that's the thing about our show, though, in the heartland of America and around the world, where people are not pretentious or, African class conscious, all that's where there's just regular working people all over the world. They relate to our show like nothing else. And that's why it's still popular internationally and in the United States. After how long has it been now? Let's see. We started filming in the fall of 1978. So that was 43 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And, yeah, we did good. We're still doing good.
Well, Rick, are you still surprised after so many years that people want to get your autograph, take your picture? I know you did even before COVID. I don't know as much after COVID, but you still did lots of fan events.
Well, yes, but when you stop and look at it, like Ben just said, our show was singular in many ways, but in no greater way than the fact of the genuine affection and love that we had for each other and that we reflect back to the fans in a very genuine way every chance we get. When a fan comes up to us at a show, wants an autograph or a snapshot, there is nothing but a two-way street of admiration, at least for me, and I can speak for the whole cast. That is something that is unique to our show. First of all, there was never any spats or fights or backbiting that you hear about in other TV shows. I mean, that's for one thing that never happened on our show. And today we are still good friends. We are still in touch with each other. We communicate by phone, telephone, and rumor continually. And it is that's the word. Ben hit the nail on the head when he said love. And that's what I feel. When a person comes up to me, I am at a show like that, I am eternally grateful and humbled by the fact that I am there at this time, at these many years later. But the feeling is genuine. We were not an action show where there was lots of explosions and bullets flying and that kind of thing. I mean, I'd hate to be somebody like Bill Smith, William Smith, or Clint Eastwood. You go into a bar and everybody wants to pick a fight with you because of your image on television. Not us. Everybody wants to come up and give you a hug. And that's fine because it is a very, very special thing.
Yeah. Ben, talk about the fans of this show. They seem so loyal, and many of them you've gotten to know personally through the years.
Oh, yeah. That's what we do. When the show was on the air, we were going out pretty much on weekends and doing World of Wheels shows and county fairs back then. Well, that didn't really go away. Each generation that comes along, since it's a family show, people take this thing personally. They watch it and they come up and say, I grew up watching this with, first we would hear, I used to watch it with my parents and now I watch it with my kids. But I heard people say, nah, I used to watch it with my grandparents and now I watch it with my grandchildren. And in show business, that's the best thing you can hear. Our show's still alive. It's down to earth, regular people. I mean, and there was nothing that you wouldn't want the kids to, not to see. It was a clean. Nobody ever got hurt. Nobody ever bled. You could fall off a cliff and have a car land on top of it. I'm okay. Just go on. Slapstick comedy, and Rick can tell you about that. Physical comedy never gets old. The shtick, the gags we were doing on the Dukes of Hazzard were done by Laurel and Hardy and were done in the Greek theater 2,000 years ago. Big fat guy slips on big arrogant guy slips on a banana peel and falls in a mud puddle. If the timing is right, that's funny. It'll be funny 2,000 years from now. So in physical comedy, we had the best looking girl ever in the history of television or movies or anywhere else, and she still looks real good. And it was just fun. It was fun. The good guys always won. Nobody really got hurt. Had great music. The best action ever filmed for television. Great slapstick comedy. As I said, that never gets old. And in the end, everybody was smiling. It's the last show on television, I believe, where a character prayed before supper. See, that's something that's changed. People want that. They want that feeling of comfort. And so that's why we're still popular in over 40 countries around the world, and why Rick and I can still hang out and talk about the good old days and get our picture took with pretty girls. It's a good gig, man. But I tell you, that thing at Hazzard, Kentucky, that let everybody know, hey, there's something out there. I knew it because I was commuting from Georgia. And I tried to tell, man, you don't believe how big we are back in Valdosta. But we were and are and continue to be. And I travel a lot all over the world. And I've run into people in Zimbabwe that recognize me and love the Dukes of Hazzard, and in Costa Rica and in France. It's just all over the world. Because that kind of comedy and that kind of good guys and bad guys stuff translates into every language. Car flies through the air 300 feet. That's eye candy, as they say. That's good stuff. And I have been really blessed, and I think he'll tell you this too. Like me, we had long careers before the Dukes of Hazzard, and I've had an interesting career after. But you get on a show like the Dukes of Hazzard that not only is successful and make some money off of it and get recognized, which everybody in show business likes that, but it's something that is meaningful to people and that they really care about. Now, I tell you, while I'm thinking about it, I want everybody who's watching this to pray for our friend Chris McQueen. Chris is a Kentucky boy, and I met him some show I was doing down Southwest Virginia. He came driving up from down y'all's way in a General Lee. And one of the finest human beings I've ever met. He works for the state police there in Kentucky. And he's we're just praying for him. He has COVID, very serious case of it. And Chris is one of those guys like us who believes in prayer. And I've been praying, and I hope everybody will pray as hard as they can for Chris to get through that, because he is the quintessential. I mean, we played good old boys, but he's the real deal. And to me, a good old boy just means a good person, a good man. And he exemplifies that. And we're thinking about him tonight.
Chris is a friend of mine as well. He has his own General Lee. We've interviewed him several times. And Rick, I know you know him personally too.
I sure do. He is a close friend. I'm friends with his entire family. He is one of my dearest friends. He's been there all along, the whole way. And I can't say enough good things about this man. He is an example of upstanding. He's just the most wonderful kind of person you would ever want to meet. Chris McQueen and his mom, Mary Reed, and Glenn McQueen, his dad, and Lisa McQueen Sawyers and his wife, Jessica, are just wonderful. And we are praying for a miracle. We are indeed praying for a miracle. And miracles happen, and enough people put their thoughts and minds to it. I think we can turn it around. I believe that miracles are possible, and he's one who could really use it at this point in time. A beautiful human being, and proud to know the man.
We're certainly all praying for him. And, you know, Ben, I know Chris has used his General Lee to do a lot of good. I remember us doing a story with him, bringing in someone who was dying, and he gave him his last wish for a ride in the General Lee. And those are the types of fans you all have got all around the country.
Yeah. The show, we've been able to sort of be workers for the good things, you know, the Dukes of Hazzard. Well, that exemplified the whole deal. The whole idea is like those shows. I tell this story all the time. I grew up in the 40s. We didn't have television. It wouldn't have mattered. We didn't have electricity. But I go down to the old Virginia Theater and see the old B Westerns on Saturday mornings. Most famous, of course, was Roy Rogers and Gene Autry and Lash LaRue and Hopalong Cassidy and all this. But that's what our show was. And that was, you know, those guys were heroes to us, Gene Autry and Roy Rogers, because they always did the right thing. They'd stick up, and they were just regular guys. They weren't nothing fancy, just like the Duke boys. But they always did the right thing. They always made the right moral choice. And the people, families all over the country, and as I say, all over the world, have continued that. That's why the show keeps going. You sort of inherit it. You know, you watch it, people say, I watch it with my grandfather. Now I watch it with my grandchildren. It keeps on going because it exemplifies the best in our culture. Always doing right. Don't worry about what the cost is. Sacrifice, do the right thing, you know, make the right moral choice. And, you know, that was a good thing to be teaching. And I think we all were aware of that and try to live up. I try to be as good as my character was, you know. I wasn't. But anyway, I think we can say that we're very, very proud to have been a part of this franchise. Like me, Rick has done lots of other things and good stuff too. And I've been in, you know, some really fine films with great directors and all that, but nothing compares with some little kid coming up to you and grabbing you by the neck and saying, I love you, Cooter. And they mean it. That's gravy, y'all. This is all gravy.
Yeah. Ben, you just turned 80 years old. Happy birthday, by the way. I know you had a big shindig up in Luray. Are you slowing down any now?
Rick Hurst did not come over and kiss me on the head. It was such a big deal that he had a line about how long. Mea culpa.
Yes, indeed.
Well, we'll do it again. Next, when I'm 160, Rick, and you can come on again. We have a
that's okay.
Let me tell you, I had family. Oh, man, there must have been 10,000, 15,000 people. It was just a regular Saturday at our place. But we had, Rick was there, and a whole bunch of General Lees are always come on rolling in from everywhere. In fact, we've got the General Lee, cruise coming with Tom Wopat. Luke Duke's going to be there with us. And what I was going to say, we had Nuke Bushner, who is a great young country singer, was there that day. He was on American Idol and won. And Wade Jennings was there, Waylon's grandson, who looks like him, sounds like him, acts like him, and he's carrying on that great tradition. So we still celebrate, just being an American that lives in the country, the people that built this country. They're the people that love us, plumbers and truck drivers and housewives and waitresses and people that work in factories and work on the railroads. That's our audience, and that's the best audience you can possibly have. Because they ain't fake. They like you forever.
Rick, what are you up to these days? I think you're 75 now. Are you still acting?
75?
Yeah. Ben came to Hollywood on my 75th birthday, but he didn't say hello to me either, so we're even there. No.
You told me you were 63. You told me.
Yes, 63. That's what I meant to say. 63. Raising kids, paying the mortgage, doing as many personal appearances or going to Cooter stores. I should mention this, that I love going to the Lou Ray store in Lou Ray, Virginia. Cooter has a store there. He has a store in Nashville, Tennessee. He has a beautiful store in Pigeon Forge, California, where I'll be there October 6th. Yeah, just coming up. And I do a lot of that, and I do other personal appearances. We have a show in Greenville, Tennessee, October 8th and 9th. So I do some of that. But I also spend time raising kids. My oldest son, Ryan Hurst, is doing pretty good. You might remember him from a show called Remember the Titans. He played Gary Bertier, a true story about his life. He was also in We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson, Lady Killers with Tom Hanks. He was actually in Saving Private Ryan. Mickelson.
The series.
And the series Sons of Anarchy, which put him on the map. He played Opie, and he had a big following there. He did another series after that called The Outsiders, and he has a show now on Disney Plus right now. It's a family show. He doesn't get killed. He's a good guy. He's not an oaf. He's not a mean guy. It's called The Mysterious Benedict Society, and it stars Tony Hale and Ryan and 4 wonderful kids. It's the story of these 4 orphans that are adopted by a man who wants them to go out and spy and save the world from his evil twin brother. Very inventive, very clever. If you're familiar with a director named Wes Anderson, his style of comedy and photography is reflected in this. So he's getting ready to go up there and do another season of that in December. We are knocking on wood. I don't want to say anything, but hopefully a first grandchild may be on the way, which would be just amazing and wonderful. My younger son, Colin Hurst, is also an actor, and he and his girlfriend have been together for about 7 years. So I spent a lot of time with them. We're going to some football games, and he's manages a restaurant at the American Musical and Dramatic Academy here in Los Angeles. And he does commercials and has done some films and things. So he's also an actor. Other than that, I just, sleep late, write some at night, and definition of you want to look up the definition of a retired actor, it'll show a clock that's about noon. Up at the crack of noon.
Well, Ben, we're out of time. I'll give you the last word quickly. What are you doing these days, and what is there left for you to do that you haven't done yet?
Well, I want to do everything I've done over again. I want to do it twice, do it better. I don't know. I just, we do a lot of things. We do, and Alma gets all the credit, as Rick knows. I won't have a lick. but marry a working woman, man. I mean, but she is almost something. She is sort of, I had the idea about, why don't we do a Dukes of Hazzard store? I'll get all my stuff out. And she looked at me like, man, kind of, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Well, you go right ahead, but I've got important things. She said. And then she saw the 5,000 people show up out in the middle of nowhere when we opened it. And Alma said, And she put her skills and her work ethic and her moxie and her brains, her love of people. And so this thing really keeps us pretty busy still. We've got, as Rick mentioned, the 3 stores. They're doing great. And we do, we have it online, cootersplace.com and Facebook and all that stuff, that high-tech stuff. But, and we have a concert every Saturday at our store in Luray. I don't jump the fences quite like I used to, but I can make it over the mountain to Luray and sing songs for an hour or so. Just recorded, got a new CD out of train songs, going back to the L&N and all that. So we stay very busy. And grandchildren and dogs and people living in the country, can't beat it, man.
Well, great to see you all again. Always good to talk to you and catch up. And we'll have to do this again sometime. I appreciate it. Rick Hurst, Ben Jones, thank you so much.
Steve, come on up, do a remote up. Come on up to Virginia.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll do that.
Put on a show for you.
All right. Thank you all again, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Issues and Answers.